If you hate me so much, don't bother coming back to this house. Just stay at the hospital forever. Useless daughter-in-law. Susie, my mother-in-law, laughed cruelly as she threw a cup of steaming coffee at me. I tried to dodge, but some of it still splashed onto my hands and feet, burning me. Susie, that's boiling hot, I cried out in pain. She just smirked and said, "Oh, I was just giving you a nice hot coffee before you leave for the hospital." Oops, my hand slipped. It was obviously on purpose. If more had hit me, I could have been seriously burned. I decided right then, I couldn't stay in this dangerous house anymore. My illness was bad enough without Susie making things worse. "I'm going back to my parents' house," I said. "I'll never come back here, so you can rest easy." Susie smiled smugly. "I don't care what's wrong with you, just don't come back. I don't want to see your face again." Her cold attitude made me stop feeling angry. I just started laughing. "Don't worry, whether my treatment works or not, I won't come back. I won't even haunt you." With that, I packed my bags and left. I never returned to that house. After I left, Susie eventually lost everything. My name is Emily, and I'm a 46-year-old company employee. After marrying my husband, Mark, I moved in with his family. Mark works far away and only comes home once a month. I live with our son, James, and my mother-in-law, Susie, for the past 3 years. While Mark has been away, Susie has become meaner and harder to live with. It's been a struggle. James is my only support. He helps ease the burden, but his loyalty to me makes Susie angrier. "James hates me because of you," she yells. "What are you teaching him?" But James is honest and always defends me. "Mom hasn't done anything wrong. Grandma, you're the one being mean." His words only make her more upset. When James is at school, Susie taunts me. "He tells me he wants you to divorce Mark and leave." She gloats. I know James would never say that. He doesn't even like her. She's never helped raise him, and he's always kept his distance from her. Whenever I told Mark about her behavior, he wouldn't believe me. "Emily, you're overreacting," he'd say, dismissing my concerns. Susie's cruelty escalated. She started throwing away the food I cooked, accusing me of trying to poison her. "You're raising my blood pressure on purpose," she shouted one day, stomping off to her room. James stood up for me. "There's nothing wrong with this food, Grandma. It tastes good." But Susie ignored him and kept accusing me of making her sick when Mark wasn't around. Living with her became unbearable. I wondered if Susie's outbursts might be signs of dementia, but James had a simpler explanation. "She's just being mean because Dad's not here. Grandma's always had a bad attitude." Mark, for his part, stayed blissfully unaware, brushing off her words and actions. Meanwhile, I carried the weight of keeping the peace in our tense home. When my father-in-law Brian retired and started staying home, things got a little easier. "I'll keep an eye on things here while you're at work, Emily," he told me. He even apologized, saying he had tried to explain Susie's behavior to Mark, but it never got through. "Mark's always been her favorite," he admitted. "Nothing I say changes that." Mark, as an only child, had always been doted on by his mother. Brian, on the other hand, kept his distance and was more critical. Brian's support was a relief, and I was grateful for his presence. A few years later, I gave birth to James. I hoped that having a grandchild might soften Susie's attitude, but it only made things worse. "Just because you had a baby doesn't mean I'm going to help," she said coldly. She never once lifted a finger to help with James. The few times I asked, she flat out refused, saying, "It's not my responsibility." Mark was shocked by her heartlessness. "Can't you help a little, Mom?" he asked. Her response was cutting. "I raised Mark on my own without anyone's help. If you can't handle it, maybe you shouldn't have kids." Her words angered Mark, and even Brian looked disappointed. Despite her behavior, both Mark and Brian stepped up to help me. When I returned to work after maternity leave, Brian helped with daycare pickups. Susie, however, remained critical. "Leaving such a young child at daycare is shameful," she'd say. If she really thought it was wrong, she could have offered to help, but she didn't. Instead, she went out and left me to manage everything on my own. I considered becoming a stay-at-home mom, but the thought of being in the same house as Susie all day was unbearable. Plus, I had career goals and wanted to save for a home for our family. With Brian's support, I managed to balance work and raising James. James adored Brian, and they shared many happy memories together. But 5 years ago, Brian passed away unexpectedly during a trip with some former coworkers. He collapsed and was rushed to the hospital. My husband and I hurried to see him, but by the time we arrived, he was unconscious and in critical condition. Susie, however, never even visited him. I was furious. Despite their differences, Susie should have been by Brian's side when he was in the hospital, but he passed away without ever regaining consciousness. Susie only showed up at the funeral, putting on a dramatic act, crying for attention. It was clear to both me and James that she was pretending. She's just pretending to care, Mom, James said. Even at his young age, he could see right through her. To make things worse, Susie had the nerve to blame me for Brian's death. It's because of Emily's greasy cooking that he got sick, she said, but no one believed her. Family members who knew her well just gave awkward smiles. Realizing she had no support, she eventually fell silent. Still, she barked orders at me. Emily, don't just stand there, get the funeral arrangements ready. Meanwhile, our relatives offered me comforting words, understanding what I was going through. When the funeral was over, I felt a deep sadness. Brian had been my only real support in that household. Without him, I feared Susie's behavior would become even worse. After Brian's passing, Mark seemed more worried about his mother than about me. I know she and Dad didn't get along, but she must be feeling lonely now. Can you keep an eye on her, Emily? He asked. Mark thought she was grieving, but I saw a different side of her. Susie seemed almost happy now that Brian was gone. She no longer had to hide her malice toward me. She only acted nicely when Mark was around, but as soon as he left, her taunts resumed. Your cooking is always the same, can't you make something different? She'd say, criticizing every meal I made. Later, she'd complain to Mark, accusing me of trying to poison her. One evening, I made a separate dish just for her, hoping to avoid her complaints. Instead, she accused me of adding something suspicious. Emily is serving me a separate dish, what if she's put something in it? She said. Mark just laughed, telling her it was all in her imagination. After that, I started eating the separate dish myself, to prove there was nothing wrong with it. Only then would she grudgingly eat the original meal, sneering at me the entire time. Everything you make is terrible, you're such a useless daughter-in-law. With Brian's inheritance, Susie now had plenty of money, but she refused to contribute financially to the household. She hinted that she intended to keep it all for herself. I'm going to save my inheritance for my future. Don't expect me to contribute to household costs, she said bluntly, making it clear we'd have to cover all the expenses. I was frustrated, knowing Susie had saved nothing, despite Mark giving her extra money on the side. Mark didn't know she was hoarding her inheritance while still collecting money from him. Soon after, Mark had to relocate for work again, leaving me to deal with her full-time. With Mark gone, Susie's daily criticism worsened, though James always took my side when he was home. I didn't want him to worry, especially with his exams coming up, so I tried to shield him from the household tension. One day, Susie demanded a large sum of money from me. Mark's gone, so it's your responsibility now. Emily, I need $1,000 right away, she said without a hint of gratitude. The bank is closed. What do you even need that much money for right now? I asked. She pointed out the ATM was open 24 hours, surprising me with her knowledge of banking options. When I refused to go, she scowled, calling me a useless daughter-in-law. I gave her the $300 I had on hand, and she stormed off without so much as a thank you. Her behavior made me suspicious, and I began to wonder if she was hiding financial troubles. Despite my concerns, I didn't want to burden Mark, so I focused on helping James with his exams. He was accepted into his preferred high school, and I finally thought I could breathe, but then I started feeling unwell. A doctor's visit led to tests, and the results revealed something serious. I informed Mark, and he immediately wanted to return home to support me. If this is serious, Emily, I'll talk to the company. I'll come back to be there for you, he said. The diagnosis was indeed serious, and I needed treatment right away. Mark, James, and I were all shaken. We need to tell James. He'll notice if I'm gone in the hospital for a while, I said. When we told James, he was upset but tried to stay strong. Treatment will help. I just need you to be patient with me, I said. Mom, I know you'll be okay. I'm here with you, and we'll get through this together, James replied. I asked both Mark and James to keep my condition a secret from Susie. I feared her cruelty would only make things worse. That evening, when we got home, Susie noticed Mark's somber expression. Why do you look so down, Mark? Is something wrong? She asked. Mark brushed it off, saying everything was fine. That night, we warned James not to tell her. Don't worry, I'd never tell her. She'd just make things worse, James said firmly. Mark seemed surprised. Really? I didn't think she was that bad, he said, still clueless about his mother's true nature. As I prepared for my treatment, Susie grew suspicious. She accused me of having an affair. "You've been coming home early from work lately. Who are you sneaking around with?" she demanded. I was stunned and didn't know how to respond. She even claimed Mark's recent visit was because of our supposed marital problems. "Mark wouldn't be here if it wasn't about your affair. I know what you're up to," she said. "I'm not having an affair, and it's none of your business anyway," I replied, trying to deflect her accusations, but she kept ranting. Despite her behavior, I didn't tell her the truth about my illness. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction. When I told her I was leaving to stay with my parents, she sneered. "You're only leaving because you got caught. Don't think you'll ever come back here," she said. "You're right, I'm never coming back," I assured her. Before leaving, she demanded I make her dinner. "Leave my dinner before you go," she ordered. "You can make your own food from now on. I'm done with you," I replied. Together, James and I walked out, leaving her and that life behind. As we left, she yelled after us not to come back, but we were resolute. At my parents' house, we were welcomed with open arms. They were shocked to hear about everything Susie had done and deeply upset at Mark's inaction. They promised to support me through my treatment. "Mark and I will talk about everything once my treatment is done," I said. My parents, though skeptical, understood that my health had to come first. The day before my hospitalization, I thought Mark would still be in his work city, but he unexpectedly showed up at my parents' home. "I thought you'd be back tomorrow. Did you mix up the date?" I asked. Mark, on the verge of tears, lowered his head in remorse. "Emily, I'm so sorry. I'm cutting ties with my mother. I had no idea she was doing such horrible things to you." I was confused about how he'd suddenly realized the truth, but then he admitted something that shocked me. "I set up a camera in your room," he confessed. "Mom kept insisting you were hiding something, and I got paranoid." The disbelief on my face must have been obvious. "You thought I was cheating, even though I'm sick?" Mark apologized repeatedly, explaining that when he reviewed the footage, he saw her throwing scalding coffee on me. My parents were furious, scolding Mark for letting his mother's influence cause such distress. As I watched him admit his mistakes, my anger began to soften. "I told her I'm done," he said. "I'll stay by your side from now on." Mark explained how he confronted Susie and decided to cut ties with her, finally acknowledging her true nature. "It's too late to ask for her apology," I said. "I don't even want to see her." Mark promised to never send her another cent, and I brought up her constant demands for money. "What did she even do with all the money you gave her? She was always at the ATM like she had debts to pay." Mark admitted he wasn't sure, though he had tried to find out in the past. Just then, as if summoned by our conversation, Susie barged into my parents' home. "Don't cut me off, Mark. I need your help," she pleaded. Coldly, I reminded her of her own words. "You said you didn't want to see me again, so why are you here?" Ignoring me, she clung to Mark, begging. "Mark, I already told you, I'm cutting you off. If you want me to listen, you'll have to apologize to Emily," he said firmly. She shot me an angry glance, but still refused to lower her head. When Mark pressed her about her financial troubles, she finally admitted the truth. She had lost all her money in online trading and accumulated massive debts. She confessed she'd started gambling after inheriting Brian's money, initially making small profits, but eventually losing everything. "So that's why you kept taking money from Mark? Because you didn't want to spend your own?" I asked. She seemed humiliated but confirmed it. Just then, James entered the room, having overheard everything. "I could never trust someone who throws hot coffee on my sick mom," he said bluntly. James's honesty shifted the tone, and Mark turned to his mother coldly. "Mom, I'm sorry, but James is right. I can't help you anymore." Despite her pleading, Mark stood his ground, explaining it was time for her to take responsibility for her actions. Susie stormed out in anger, still unwilling to apologize or admit her wrongdoing. For the first time in years, I felt at peace as she left, though I felt a pang of sadness for Mark, who had lost trust in his mother. I was grateful for his renewed commitment to our family. With their support, I faced my treatment head-on. Mark, James, and my parents were my rock, encouraging me through the grueling process. Months later, my health returned, and I was discharged. "I'm only here today because of all of you. Thank you for being my strength," I told them. James had grown into a young adult in college, and Mark and my parents had grown close during my recovery. As I returned to work part-time, surrounded by people who truly cared for me, I vowed to focus on my loved ones and leave the painful memories of Susie's actions behind. We later learned she was living with a relative and working part-time to pay off her debts. James once spotted her being reprimanded by a younger manager, an ironic twist. Despite everything, she was still snapping back at others like her old self. Though I almost felt bad for her, the peace I found in my life outweighed any lingering sympathy. Surrounded by my family's love, I finally let go of the pain and found gratitude in every moment of our shared strength and resilience.